Settle in for the Sea Shrine here on Final Fantasy Reconstructed. This is a beta release of this Romhack, which will be released in its finished version sometime soon. Author is putting the final finishing touches on the hack as we record these videos. So we picked up what we needed from the waterfall, which is we won't need it for a while. We got the warp cube from the robots, but more importantly, we got some very important equipment there in the waterfall cave. We got a nice sword. We got the ribbon update. So we're good to go there. This is the town of Romhack, which is the home of the Sea Shrine. I'm just I'm getting footage here of what the villagers are saying. There's the hint, the "you have legs." That's the hint of the mermaids. I believe that was supposed to be a reference to the mermaids who grew one mermaid who grew legs and walked away, who we hear about later. Kope. Now, Kope, I believe, is the name that the people down in the waterfall cave were saying. I believe that's the word that they were saying. Kope? So that little boy, and in the NES version, that little boy hints you that he saw a robot or something shiny flying to the waterfall. So that's your hint that you should sail your canoe, paddle your canoe, up into the waterfall cave there. So that's a little interesting thing. So he saw them, and apparently they saw him. Now, in that waterfall cave, we have a robot sprite for sure. And I'm not entirely sure if the other sprites were humanoid shapes or not. Because they may have been like Lefian-ish people. It's kind of what it signaled to me. And what I did not do is I have not gone down to the town of Lefian to see what their language looks like before we get the slab or the Rosetta Stone from the dungeon here, and then bring it back to Dr. Un, who translates it, which allows you to then speak the language of the Lefianish people. So I don't know what their language looks like. Maybe they just say Kope. So now we have a short quest sequence. We have a short quest sequence. Normally you go to the oasis to buy your bottle. And the bottle has the fairy in it, and then you release the fairy. But this is something new, something different. So this is I'm not quite sure what this is. So maybe this is something to come back to later on in the game. Maybe once we have all 4 crystals lit. Maybe there's something else happening up there. Either way, we'll head over to the oasis and see what's up. Now, normally, the oasis does not have a sprite on it, a town sprite. It's just up to you to know that the caravan is in the desert, and it's a signal that there's an oasis there. And also, normally, it is only just a shop, just a one shop. But this is Kaipo Village, which I think we saw reference to way back in, was it Melmond? I think there was a character that said he was from Kaipo Village. So here is the Life 2 and Wall spell. So some things have been kind of rearranged here. We have an entire new village here in the desert. And it looks like a fully functioning village. Still yet to see that Erdrick reference at the gravestone. So we have just a lot of characters that aren't in this game. Now, in that one, Underhill, the caravan master, had something very strange. That is a line that's said by, I think, somebody in one of the town, Romhack or Gaia. His name is Underhill, I think. And then I also think you meet his daughter, maybe, or his son, who says, my father is the caravan master. So there's a couple of clues to that, that there is a caravan. Now I'm just talking to the people around the village. I'm taking a look at what's at the inn. And what I'm looking for is I'm looking for Underhill in particular. I'm looking for that caravan master. Now, here's where my knowledge of the Final Fantasy game served me a little bit wrong as I was playing through this. What I thought happened is that the caravan has been moved out of the town and into a random square in the desert. So, I'm now scouring the desert, as I did in the Final Fantasy ZZ hack, where the Oasis has been moved to a random square in the middle of the desert without as much information as to where exactly it could be, with a lot of very dangerous enemies hanging out around it. So it's up to you to just crawl the desert as I am here, hoping to run into it. Because the way it's been changed, instead of going to just a shop, it went to a village. I assumed that the Oasis shop has been moved. So looking at the sprites of my new characters, I got a tip that the sprites of these characters are references to other specific characters. They're not just updated sprites from a later game. They're possibly references to certain characters like Cecil, after his class change into a paladin. We have the white mage Rosa, which I talked about. They really confirmed the femininity of the white mage in this one. That's not quite so clear in the NES version. We have possibly a Tella look-alike down there with the Black Mage, but again, as I said before, the Black Mage is for me the hardest one to decipher. It looks like maybe I can see the sunglasses of Tella. Maybe now that I'm thinking about it, I can see the dark glasses or the dark eyes, and I see maybe some crossed arms in front of the Black Mage, and then I do see the crescent moon shape on the Black Mage's hat, which would become kind of iconic with the Black Mage class in this game, the golden crescent moon shape. So these the desert bullets are they use a turtle-y sprite in this version. In the NES version, they have more of a they look like ankylosaurs, and in fact, their names are Ankleos and Red Ankleos, or Ankylo. So I'm still scouring the desert for the Oasis. The game kind of points to you, without the sprite in the NES version, the game points to you that the Oasis might be there. But I'm starting to wonder if maybe I'm not on the right track here, as I've scoured 2/3 of the entire desert and not run into the Oasis tile yet, and I've passed the town again. And I'm fighting these strong desert monsters. In the NES version, I think they did a good job at Square in making the desert seem very uninviting and not fun places to hang out. The monsters there are pretty devastating. So at this point, I decide to take another look in town and see what's going on. See if there's something I'm missing here in the town. See if anyone gives me a better hint as to where the caravan master is. And sure enough, here we are. It is just the item shop of the town. All I needed to do was go into the item shop, and I could have saved myself all that desert crawling. So I buy one fairy for 50,000, which, by the way, is the cost of the bottle in the NES version. So if you think that's been souped up, think again. You do have to drop 50,000 big ones. Now we have to head back over to the town of Gaia, because Gaia has the fairy fountain, from where the fairy was kidnapped and then sold on to the caravan trader. And Gaia, the layout of the kind of gap in the mountains where Gaia sits has been remapped a little bit, but it's still the same, just surrounded by mountains in a little green plain there. We like to think maybe this is like a mountain valley town. If you're thinking very, very deep into what that would look like, it would be probably in a mountain valley. So you can do this anywhere in the world, but when you examine the fairy, or in the NES version, it's a bottle. But you can't see the fairy in the bottle when it apparently. Okay. So now the fairy goes to the bottom of the spring there, the fairy fountain, and gets the oxyale, which is it's just I guess it's an air tank or a magical air tank for the submarine. Because the submarine is hanging out in Onrak already. The submarine's already there. So you just need to get yourself a fresh air supply. And I guess it's unclear. Maybe it's made clear somewhere. I haven't really given this much thought. If the sea shrine, if it's actually underwater too, if it's actually filled with water, and the oxyale lets you walk around. I suppose that probably means that it is. I'm guessing that means that it is indeed filled with water. I guess I hadn't thought about that until just this moment, until 2016. I hadn't thought as to whether the sea palace was in fact underwater, or full of water, I guess you should say. Because I believe according to the game's canon, it sank. The palace used to be above water, and the sea palace sank down. And there's things with the mermaids, doing dealings with humans, and legends of whether mermaids are still around. I don't know. Lots of things to unpack there. Lots of things to unpack. So I just fight that one battle since I'm on the way to town anyway. We can pop to the inn before we head down into the sea shrine. And I'm curious to see what the sea shrine will look like. Most of the dungeons have not been drastically remapped. Castle of Ordeals may be the first exception for a majorly remapped dungeon. Marsh Cave, I guess, may be made much more linear. So we'll see. And you do need to have the oxyale, which says furnishes fresh air. Alright, so we need to pop down, help the mermaids. And there's little Kope. There we go. Now we have I can see a little bit of the next floor area there when that comes in. So that's something that probably in an official release they would make sure that little stretch of floor area wasn't visible, or would make it more visible. Seeing just the very corner of that is a little bit confusing when you come in, but that's just based on the screen's view ratio. So think about that when you're taking a look at this for the final version there. I guess it signals that there's another room over there. But it just seeing just the edge of that wall makes it seem like it's maybe it wasn't done so intentionally. Now I'm fighting the battles with the Nagas here, because finally my Zeus Gauntlet is going to really come into its own here with a lot of the enemies down here weak to lightning damage. Unfortunately, the Water Naga can also hit me with all targeting Volt 2 damage. And in the NES version, I believe the battle with the water elementals, or they're just called water, I believe those are unrunnable. But I think what I've seen so far in this patch, a lot of the previously unrunnable battles are now runnable, which is another nice. It's a nice player-friendly thing to do for dungeon crawling. It takes out some of the, and you hesitate to use the word challenge because a lot of those unrunnable battles in this game were meant to just kind of artificially extend the length of dungeons and artificially extend game time, and also drain your resources. And you're fighting pack after pack of unrunnable enemies, and you have to just keep fighting them and keep fighting and keep fighting them, using that heal staff every round. It's really meant to just kind of sap your time and sap your resources as you're going down towards the boss. But so making the battles runnable makes it more player-friendly, but it removes some of that barrier. So if you're taking out that part, to kind of, you need to maybe replace that extra time or that extra bit of challenge with a good layout of the dungeon, or extending some things, which I think has been done pretty well in this one. Whenever the fights have been made easier, something else has been changed a little bit, but I would still say the curve of this game generally is easier than the NES version. And I absolutely don't mean that in a bad way. It's definitely turned towards making the game more player-friendly. So what we're doing here, and this, I'm just paused to think there for a second, because in the NES version, and as it's now clear is happening in this version, you enter this dungeon in the middle floor. Okay, this is kind of a unique dungeon in that you're not coming in from the top and working your way down like the cave or a volcano, nor are you coming in the bottom and working your way up like a castle or Mirage Tower or things like that. You come in on the middle floor. I think it's level 3, and you can go a couple floors up or a couple floors down, and there's things you need both sides. I think at the top, the top of the castle, so going a couple floors up, that gets you the slab, or the Rosetta Stone, which you need to bring to Dr. Un to translate, and then going down gets you to the Kraken, gets you to the boss. So I generally like to go up first, if indeed this has been mapped the same way. I prefer to go up first. By the way, these ghost enemies look to be just as punishing as they are in the NES version, or very nearly so at least. These ghosts pop up here in this water temple, and they just crush you. They have nasty physical attacks that just insanely powerful physical attacks for where we are in the game. They're by far and away the hardest enemy that pops up in this dungeon. They have a lot of health, they can take a lot of abuse, and they have just devastating physical attacks. And the experience and gold rewards are not anything to write home about for the level of challenge. I know I got almost 1,000 experience for that, but that was a tough battle. And they're going to be tough battles. And now this battle with the Sahag type enemies is, barely worth fighting, even with the red Sahags. But the Zeus Gauntlet obviously helps quite a bit, because they have the 2 red Sahags and 2 wizard Sahags there, Sea Baron as they are in this one. But I'll fight it because that Zeus Gauntlet can take out all of the red Sahags in one shot. So here we have more of the very, very humanoid-looking tiles, which are kind of absent in the NES version, which is a little bit surprising because this was supposed to have been a castle that was once inhabited. But we don't really have any signs of human habitation like that. We don't really have chairs or anything. There aren't... Come to think of it, in the NES version, there aren't very many humanoid types of things in the game. Even in some of the castles, there aren't a lot of pieces of furniture. They didn't build much of that in. This one has the look of, and this was what it was shooting for, the look of a Super NES era Japanese RPG, where you do have lots of set pieces like that, tables and chairs and counters. And so this one is a bit of a maze. This is more of a maze maybe than any of the other dungeons so far, except, of course, the Ordeal Castle, which is supposed to be a challenging maze. And that's a good thing, because the Sea Shrine generally is quite maze-like. And the battles do make it more challenging to execute the maze, because you have to remember which direction you were heading and where you've been already on the floor. Here's a level up to 22. Still building our way up to those level 8 spell charges. And now there is a notable piece of equipment. The Mage Staff is one of the better pieces of equipment hanging out in this dungeon. The Mage Staff casts Fire 2 when it's used in battle. And I believe there, also in the NES version, there is a 20 gold treasure chest, or a 20 gil treasure chest. So that checks out. So again, the author of this patch decided to stay faithful to some of the very baffling things that they did to you in this game, and in other 80s and 90s era RPGs. Final Fantasy V certainly has its share of not all that notable treasure chests. There's the 1 gil treasure chest in the Moogle Cave. It's next to a 10,000 gil treasure chest. Just like that one was a 20 gil chest right next to a 12,350 chest. Here are the mermaids. So there's a hint. Shrine's top floor, and she tells us where Kraken is. And they don't like the Fiend of Water. Here's some mermaids sitting at tables and chairs. You can breathe underwater. Okay, so then I guess that is a specific answer to my question. We can breathe underwater with the oxyale, so we must be navigating through water. So if they don't retain the power of water... Oh, here's my friend Ariel. My friend Ariel went to the land and never returned. Maybe she grew legs and walked away. So maybe that was our witch friend. Obviously Ariel, a reference to the Little Mermaid. And they do have the hair color of the Little Mermaid here. They have the red hair. And the slab should be in one of these chests, as should be the opal equipment. I bet the slab is in there. Ooh, a Genji glove. That's fun. A Genji glove. The light axe, that's another notable piece of equipment that you find. And oh, Genji armor. There's a Genji helmet. And, okay, Genji shield and the diamond bracelet. Now, yes, opal in the NES version of this game. It was translated as opal, but a lot of later translations have made it consistent with the Final Fantasy universe of diamond being your protection against lightning. Because in the NES version, the opal equipment did give you elemental protection from lightning. But in later games, they decided to make diamond the electricity protector. So that's what's happened here, I believe. So that is just the opal bracelet is now diamond. And there's my ruby bracelet, which I believe is a newer, this translation's gold bracelet. I believe that it's the gold bracelet, because I don't think we had a gold. So my knight cannot equip the Genji armor. And just out of curiosity, yes, my master can equip the Genji equipment. Okay, so I'll move some things around. Let's get the Genji helmet on that guy, and I'll take a look at what he can get. So defense of 66, and the evade is 44. Now, without any equipment, he would have 22 and 67. So you can see I lose some of my evade, but my absorb goes way up. Because if you haven't been watching the previous ones, the black belt / master monk classes in this game, they have a base armor that's equal to their level. So if they are totally naked, then they get a base absorb of their level. Now, if you equip any armor on them, then they lose that base of 8. So they don't get to add that to an armor penalty or to an armor bonus. So later on in this game, when I want to equip, say, something like a ribbon on that character, I will have to have good armor for him. There's the Rosetta Stone. It's called the Slab in all caps in the NES version. And that door, I'm wondering if it's an exit, and indeed it is. So that is something that has been added into this patch, and I think I've seen it in other patches. Just to reduce backtracking, that's another player-friendly addition that we've added to this. Because I've crawled through, I've got my stuff, I've got what I need, and now I can continue. I can just go right back out to the town without having to walk back through or cast a warp spell to get out. So I'm noticing that what that does do, though, is that takes out some of the bite of the mages in this game. It takes out some of the mage specific abilities that you want. One of the reasons that you do want to keep a white mage in your party is the ability to have that exit spell. But with this, it's not quite as necessary with some of these changes that have been made. Not saying that's a bad thing. It certainly opens up more flexibility in your party, but it does take away some of the teeth of the white mage. So I believe when this comes out in its final edition with the guide and everything, I definitely would like to do another video series on this, and I will probably do one with fewer magely characters. Because I definitely want to see what the thief/ninja can do in this game. Definitely want to see what the thief has been able to do. So we'll take a look at that, and I'm missing a red mage in this party, so maybe I'll bring a red mage or two as my casters, and see what we can do with the other physical classes, because I've seen the very slight changes that have been made with these other ones. Of course, some of what does help the mages is that the black mage's temper and saber abilities have been fixed, as in many hacks, because I believe that's a very simple fix that, boy, you just wish they would have done it all those years ago. Wish they would have just had maybe Nasir Gavelli, the programmer of this game, just taken one more look. All right, so there's another ribbon, which is the most notable piece of equipment down here. Anytime you can find a ribbon, you know you're in good shape. Because the ribbons here protect you from all of the elements of this game. And so it's notable because it doesn't just give you the status protection. When we think of ribbons today, we think of protecting you from all of the different statuses. This one actually gives you elemental protection too. So when you have those spells like Blizzard or like the poison gas attack that the gas dragons do, the poison attack, that can do between 50 and 200 damage to all of your characters, by the way. The ribbon grants you protection, and it roughly quarters the damage you'll take from those elemental attacks, so those all-targeting elemental attacks. Plus, it gives you protection from the instant deathy kind of attacks, which come with several different elements attached to them. It'll protect you from the crack or the earthquake attack that Chaos uses, which is an earth elemental sudden death, instant death attack. Protects you from the rub spell, which is a death elemental death attack. Protects you from the stoning attacks and the glances from the poison stone ability. It protects you from the time element, which is an obscure element in this game. And I believe the spell XXXX is a time element. Let me confirm that. Oh, nope, sorry. That is a death elemental attack. Glare. Glare is the time element attack. We have stop, zap, and glare are the time element. XXXX and rub are both the death elemental. I think XXXX is translated into X zone in later games, and indeed in this version. its X zone, which is one of the reasons that my mind wants to make it a time elemental attack, because in later games, X zone does fit more into the time or dimensional magic flavor, where you banish the enemies into an alternate dimension, effectively killing them. And I believe I'm backtracking here after getting a little bit lost from a battle. I'm just so excited to have picked up that ribbon, and yes, I do know that now I know that I have backtracked. And I'm not helping my cause here. I'm totally lost on this floor. I believe those stairs going down were where I needed to go. But a couple of battles made me lose my place. And sometimes it can take you a few minutes to get back up, to get back to where you were going. And there's certainly nothing wrong with that, especially in an old classic flavor RPG like this. I have a feeling modern players might not have as much patience with getting lost in dungeons like this. I feel like a lot of modern players would like something where the gameplay is pretty straightforward, but the cinematics and the gameplay, or the cinematics and the story, are more exciting. But a lot of us who are used to these kind of classic challenge curves of these games, I think I'm back on track now, but I've got to get away from the Sea Troll Zombol combo. The Master Sprite, that's the grown-up monk or black belt sprite, I also received a tip that is possibly modeled after Ryu from the Street Fighter series, which I can certainly see it, not so much in the color scheme. They kept the blue and orange and brown-haired color scheme, but we do have the bandana, the headband, and a little hair sticking up, and also the pose is fairly Ryu-esque. Although if you look closely at the sprite, you can see the little thumbs up, which is kind of neat. So here I'm wondering if these are trapped squares, since I'm getting into a battle every step. They're looking trapped squarey. And I'm not sure if the Sentry/Guardian enemies, I'm not sure if they can pop up as random battles or if they are strictly in trapped squares. Like the Earth and Fire elementals, I think only show up as trapped squares in the Earth Cave and volcanoes. They may appear as random battles in the Temple of Fiends Revisited on the elemental floors, but so there's a battle with the ghosts, and I'll dip into my my cure potions a little bit, because the heal staff just it doesn't keep up with damage from those ghosts, those groups of ghosts, very well. Plus, I'm using my my white mage's turns. This is probably a trapped square. Generally, when you run into a battle right in front of a chest, you can guess that it's a trap square, although it's still possible that it's just a regularly scheduled random battle. But you can make an educated guess, especially when you have two of them in a row and they are a similar battle formation. But now, luckily, these battles, like a lot of the trap square battles, there's the power gauntlet, and I'm never quite sure what to do about the power gauntlet. Obviously, in the vanilla version, it's totally useless. Obviously, it's just not good enough. Not good enough. But the power gauntlet casts the Saber spell. So the character who is wielding it has to use it, because I think Saber is a self-targeting spell only. But when you have those boss battles, it's hard to justify wasting a turn casting the Saber spell from the characters you want attacking, especially when their damage adds up quickly. So that's kind of a tricky one. I would like it if Saber was a souped-up version of Temper, which can be targeted to another character. But I understand that magical items I don't think there are any magical items you can use that are targeted to a character. I think the magical items, when you use them, it's either the self-targeted spell, or it's an all-targeted team spell, or it's an all-targeted enemy spell. And I don't know if a hacker could change the way that works. I'm not sure about that. So this is likely Kraken's hangout. We have another crystal. This is our third crystal. Taking a look at my equipment, seeing what I'm protected from. I'm protected from most things. So, challenging Kraken, the Fiend of the Water. Ho, ho, ho. I believe he does say ho, ho, ho in the NES version. Kraken, like most bosses in this game, in this hack, I should say, has a very similar or unchanged sprite design, except for the color palette. The colors have been changed a little bit, so Kraken in the NES version is more purpley colored, more of a light purple in the main part of its flesh. In this one, its suckers, 9 hits for 254, nice. Its suckers are a slightly more contrasting color, which I think is a nice design, because I think in the NES version, the flesh is kind of a light purple, which is more like when you think of a squid or an octopus in real life, you're thinking of kind of that light pinkish purple color. But then the suckers are just a little bit darker purple color, if I'm picturing it correctly. Here's Invis 2, which bumps up my evasion, because Kraken can hit for as many as 8 hits. There you see it landed 5 after 1 Invis 2. If you keep casting Invis 2, you can make yourselves very difficult to hit. Not sure in this patch if that's been fixed, but in the NES version of the game, you can get yourself to be nearly unhittable because of how the game does its accuracy calculations. You can make yourself nearly unhittable with, I think it's 5 or 6 Invis 2s. If this patch has changed how those are calculated, then it's not quite as easy. But there you can see, with haste, bumping up the number of hits I have. 9 hits there. There's the spirit coming out of the crystal. Yeah, 9 hits there is totally crushing it with that black belt. Now, we are going to go back down into the dungeon after we save, because there is that area with the trapped squares that I was not brave enough to tackle when I was going down there to fight Kraken. So we are going to see what's hanging out for us down there. There we go. So I will have to kind of make the run back down, but now that I know my way around, I hopefully will not get lost on the way down there, and we'll have some trapped squares to deal with. I was wondering if it was a situation similar to the Hall of Giants, where every square is a trapped square. That's why I decided not to brave going up there the first time. I wanted to get a look at Kraken and then pop back down. One of the reasons this video is longer than any other in the series so far is I got a little bit lost there in the desert looking for the bottle and the caravan. And now we're going down for a second look, or actually a third look, at the Sea Palace, because we got that extra free exit after going up to the top and picking up the Rosetta Stone, or the slab, as it were. And we got red piranhas down. But I do still want to get, now that's not quite so rewarding a battle, unfortunately. 546 on the experience. Gold is pretty much irrelevant for me at this point in the game. I have basically everything I need. I'll need to buy some upper level spells, but that's pretty much the extent of my purchases for the rest of the game. I believe this is the floor with those trapped squares, so we will find out what those trapped squares are protecting, what those guardians and sentries are protecting from us. But the strategy you saw with the Kraken battle is basically going to be the strategy for every boss for the rest of this game. Starts with the Black Mage casting haste on the physical bruisers. White Mage, there you go. See, we have Black Mage taken out by a couple of nasty physical attacks. And then the White Mage just going for defense. Now I'm hoping to get up to the level 8 spell so the White Mage can learn Wall. And the Wall spell basically simulates the effect of wearing a ribbon. Because in the NES version of this game, there are only 3 ribbons in the game. Only 3 ribbons in the entire game. And it's ribbon with an extra space at the end of it, too. That's listed as a very minor bug in the game. There is a space at the end of the name ribbon. Anyway, so the White Mage can cast Wall, and so in any given battle, you can get it to where you can simulate all 4 characters wearing a ribbon. So in that Chaos battle, you're hoping to get the Wall spell off before Chaos uses his first ability. Not its first spell, but its first ability, which is Crack. It's the Earthquake attack. It's the Earth Elemental attack that can instant kill you. So it can instant kill the character without the ribbon. It cannot harm characters with ribbons. So it looks like it was just treasure chests up here, protected by those trap squares, which is interesting. And fine, I can always use treasure chests. There's another light axe. Okay, I think there are 2 light axes in the NES version of this game, the vanilla version. I think there are 2. All right, and empty. So I wonder if that was a double chest or if I grabbed that. Maybe I did grab that without noticing, but maybe that's a double chest that I picked up something from it already. Maybe the ribbon was up there in a double chest, which is something that they use in the NES version as kind of a baffling mechanic. So now we can use the exit spell and get the heck out of here. So there we go. There's the Sea Shrine. I've got my Rosetta Stone. Next time we will find Dr. Un, get the translation, and head over to Lefian so we can get the last piece of key items we need to go to the Sky Palace. If you enjoyed the video, give me a thumbs up and leave a comment. I'd love to hear from you, and we'll see you next time.